Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 26th Planning and Zoning Board. I'd like all to rise and please say flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public notice of this meeting, pursuant to the Open Meeting Act, has been given by the Borough of Clark in the following manner: posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office, and emailed to the retrospect and the Courier Post. Teresa, will we have roll call, please?
Sure. Chairperson Klinghammer?
Yes.
Mr. Abarel?
Overly.
Here.
Overly, sorry. Okay, good. Ms. Boucham?
Here.
Mr. Buckheim?
Here.
Mr. Vanella?
Here.
Ms. Farmer?
Here.
Mr. Lozon?
Present.
Mayor is excused.
Mr. Ludenstein?
Lobenstein, here.
Ludenstein, I'm sorry.
No worries, Teresa, no worries.
Alternate clerk? Here. Walker? Here. And I apologize ahead of time. Muselli?
Correct.
That was good.
Mr. Rowan?
Here.
Mr. Bach?
Here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Under old business, a resolution 2309, David.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this is regarding an application that was heard at our March meeting. Applicant was Short Hospitality LLC, for property located at 1.
Hey, Dave, I apologize for interrupting you. There seems to be a mistake on the agenda. There should be the minutes before we do this.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that on the
Listen,
agenda.
it's not on the agenda, it's not your fault.
It's
The agenda's fault. So what I want to, if I may, I apologize to the public. If I may, I just want to ask if there's any questions on the minutes from the March meeting. Is everyone have a copy? Anyone need a copy? March 22nd, 2023 meeting. This was the meeting where we had the Days In application. Are there any questions on those minutes? Any comments or corrections? I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 22nd.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Muselli, second by Mr. Lawson. All in favor? Thank you. I apologize for that. Was on the agenda, and you know me, not all there. Not all there. I'm going to mess it up.
You saw it.
Okay, now, we're going to reboot to Resolution 2309. Mr. Rowan.
Okay, that was the application of Short Hospitality LLC, trading as Days In at 101 East 9th Avenue, block 135, lot 31, which lies in our SED, Special Economic Development Zone. This was a resolution memorializing the approval of preliminary and final major site plan with use variance.
Okay. So we're going to entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2309. Only those who were present for that application may vote.
I make that motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Ockley, second by Mr. Vanella. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Chairperson Klinghammer?
Yes.
Mr. Overly?
Yes.
Ms. Boucham?
Yes.
Mr. Buckheim?
Yes.
Mr. Vanella?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Ms. Lozon? Mr. Lozon?
Yes.
A,
Continuing. Mr. Lobenstein?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here.
And the alternates as well?
did any of the alternates vote on that?
No, they don't need that.
Okay, so we're good. Okay, resolution is adopted. Thank you very much. Okay. Under new business, we have application 2301. Mr. Ruane.
Okay, Damian, this is a application for use of preliminary and final site plan application.
Mr. Ruane, I apologize again. Because this is a use variance, we are going to ask Mr. Lovenstein to recuse himself from the application because it is only variance, okay?
And if we can just also confirm the voting members for this evening.
Yes, since there is, we're going to need, it is a D variance, it looks like we have enough. We need, the applicant needs 5.
So full quorum.
Yeah.
So the alternates can participate, but they would not vote.
Correct.
That's correct, yes, yes.
All set?
Okay.
Great, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Damien Del Duca. It's good to see you again. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Del Duca, Lewis and Byrne. I represent the applicant tonight. I have with me my clients, Abe Cohen. Abe, if you just raise your hand. His brother Joe, Ricky Essex, his partners. They are the owners of the property that we're here for tonight, which is the car wash here at 705 and 707 East Clemens Bridge Road. The applicant is ABA, ABA Realty, LLC. That is the owner of the property. The property is block 126. It's 3 lots, lots 3, 10.02, and 11. I'm going to hand you out exhibits. Actually, you know what? I think I'll hand them out now. Excuse me. There should be plenty for everybody. If you would mind passing it around. Thank you. So I'll identify the exhibits, but the first one is a photograph of the existing building, which is not on the board, but you're going to see it now. It's the car wash you all know. It's been there for years. My clients bought the property, the real estate, about a year ago, April 2022. It's been a car wash for some time. They operated it briefly before they bought it. They now own it. And they're here tonight to convert it from what in the car wash business is called a full-service car wash to an express car wash. And if you're like me, you see new car washes in various towns in South Jersey, and all the new ones that I've seen anyway are express car washes. And an express car wash is different than the car wash that we all grew up with, in that when you go into an express car wash, you pay at a kiosk. It's more automated as far as how you pay. You elect your service, essentially a menu, and then you go into the tunnel, which is inside the building where your car is washed. And then when you leave, you can either leave the site or go into a vacuum area where you can vacuum your car yourself and clean up your car yourself and discard your trash. So we're here tonight for site plan approval to propose the conversion of a full-service older car wash into a new state-of-the-art express car wash. And our clients were proposing to make this significant, what is really a significant investment in this property and in Runnemede, because the way we're evolving in the market for car washes, people want fast, they want efficient, and they want a clean car, and for a reasonable price in a short amount of time. And that's where the market's going. It's all about convenience and efficiency, and that's what's driving this. And I think we can all agree, if you look at the photograph, which is the first exhibit, A1, and you'll see in the exhibits that we have a rendering of what the new building will look like. We believe this is a significant improvement over what's there today, not just aesthetically, but also in terms of access, circulation on the site, ADA parking and otherwise. What you'll see here on exhibit, I think it's A2, I didn't mark these larger ones, but you have the exhibits that are being marked. This is an aerial which shows the 3 lots. And lot 11 is the lot on the right, which our clients purchased when they purchased the car wash. It was a building that was there before, and you'll see on the next exhibit that it's been torn down. It's now a vacant pad site, just dirt essentially with the parking lot to the right. And that building was taken down, and that's going to make room for the new vacuum area. The next photograph that I have, which I believe is exhibit A3 in your set, shows what's there today, which is a building here that's sort of an upside down T shape, and then the vacant property, which is lot 11, to the right. They own everything in red. What they propose to do, Teal, is the rendered site plan in here?
Yes.
I have it right here. Great. Thanks. What they propose to do is to take this car wash, which has sort of open season from an access standpoint, very broad access rights on both lots, and we're going to take off a portion of the building, that sort of the left half of the T that I referenced, and the building will actually be reduced in size. We're going to reduce impervious coverage, we're going to increase landscaping, and we're going to improve access, which our engineer, Mr. Jeffers, will tell you about momentarily. So that is the proposal. Like I said, there are multiple improvements. that we're proposing. And the reason why we need a use variance is, and the reason why you had to have a member recuse themselves, is because we're in a split lot zone. We're in two zones. The front of the lot is in the commercial district. The rear is in the R1 residential district. Car wash is permitted in the commercial district, but not in the residential district, as you would expect. Third Avenue is to the, I'm going to call it to the north, generally, sort of the northwest, right above, and there are, of course, homes on that street. It's already screened, there's a solid fence, there's landscaping. We're going to supplement that and improve upon it in consultation with Mr. Bach's office to help improve, maintain but improve that buffer that's there today. We're not changing the use. The car wash is an existing use, but since we're doing construction and changing the way we're doing business a little bit, conservatively we apply for a use variance. But again, the use isn't changing. The residential portion, which is this rear, I'll call it roughly third of the site, is in the R1 zone, and that is where people will stack, pay at the kiosk, and circulate and go into the tunnel. They exit in the front, which is in the commercial district. All that, for the most part, is going on today. That's where customers are generally entering the rear of the building, and you know, they're exiting today where they'll be exiting with the proposed changes. So we need a use variance. It's a D1 use variance, which, as someone mentioned, requires 5 affirmative votes out of 7. We also need site plan approval, preliminary and final site plan approval, to make these changes that we propose. So we're here for those approvals tonight. We do need a few bulk variances. Specifically, we've applied for a variance for coverage in both zones, but we're over the limit, but we're actually reducing coverage in both zones. But we have applied for that because we're taking up coverage and putting it down, and as a result of that, once you take it up, it's no longer an existing non-conforming situation. You need permission or a variance to put it back. So there is some concrete, a lot of concrete on the car wash site. One of Mr. Bach's comments was that we should replace that with asphalt. Our client has agreed to remove that damaged concrete and replace it. So this will look like a new site when it's finished. But that's one of the reasons why we need the variances for coverage, because, but we are reducing the coverage. The second variance that requires for loading, you require a loading space for commercial use for obvious reasons, but we have no large trucks that will make deliveries, and Mr. Cohen will confirm that. So we seek a variance because we propose no loading area. We don't need one. And then third, you have a requirement for a buffer width of 20 feet. We propose 4.5 feet. That's an existing condition. We just seek to continue that existing condition. It's 4.5 feet in one place and 4.9 feet in another. And then another existing condition that we seek to continue is the side yard setback. You require 10 feet. Over here, we're at 9.6. We're obviously not proposing to move the building over about 4 or 5 inches. We want to leave that where it is. That's an existing condition that we seek to retain. So that's the only other bulk variance that I'm aware of. Obviously, we seek any other relief that may be required. We have Mr. Bach's letter dated April 17th. We thank him for his usual thoroughness, and we have no objections to any of the recommendations set forth in Steve's letter. We'll comply with the comments in his letter, and we'll work with him on the landscaping, as I mentioned, and anything else that needs to be addressed. So we're good with his letter, which should help hopefully shorten things. That's really it. The other exhibits, I'm just going to grab my copy and identify them. Yeah, I'll borrow yours, thanks. They're all marked, but let me just say for the record what they are. Exhibit A1 is a photograph of the existing car wash. Exhibit A2 is an aerial. Exhibit A3 is another aerial photograph. Exhibit A4 is what you see on the board, which is the rendered site plan that Mr. Jeffers prepared. Exhibit A5, which you'll see on the board this evening, is the rendering of the building. So I'm just going to hold up so you can orient yourself. That shows what the building will look like. It's not exact, but it's a good representation of what it will look like, both in terms of building materials, size, and color is an approximate match. You know, between the production of it, my copier, coming here, and everything else, the color is not exact. You'll see in this picture there's a trash enclosure. That's actually relevant because there is a trash can out there today, but it's not enclosed. That's another improvement that we're proposing. Exhibit A6 and 7 are just black and white photo plans of the architectural plans. The elevations is A6 and the floor plan is A7. And those are the exhibits. So unless anyone has any questions for me, I have 3 witnesses tonight. First will be Phil Jeffers, our engineer, will be our primary witness. Mr. Cohen will testify briefly as to the car wash operations, although I think you probably have a pretty good idea how they operate. And our last witness will be Nathan Mosley, who's our traffic engineer. He'll provide some brief testimony related to traffic.
One question for you is the exhibit. Can you just put on the record so that Ms. Rowan can put in the resolution or confirm this, that besides the front facade, it's represented in the application materials that you're doing a reface and a re-roof of the entire structure on all 4 sides?
That's my understanding, but I'm going to have one of my witnesses confirm that.
And we just want to make sure we have that on the record and part of the resolution.
Fair enough.
Refacing, what, it's going to be a new structure, Damien, or are they going to?
No, they're going to renovate.
They're gonna
Oh, okay.
renovate
So
all 4
refacing
sides with,
existing structure.
They're only selling 2 sides right now. So
yeah. So we just want to make sure they're representing
And new roof.
stucco on the remaining portions. If you just put that on the record.
I'll get some detail in the record.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Damien, your folks are, if I
They're
can
all
swear
here,
you're
they
in,
can-
if we do a group swearing in and our engineer,
Yeah.
gentlemen or ladies, anybody that's going to give testimony, if you please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this board tonight is truthful and accurate to the best of your knowledge? I do. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. We're going to start with Teal. Yes, Mr. Jeffers.
Mr. Del Duca?
Yeah.
Before you continue with Teal, are there any questions from the board, the professionals for Mr. Del Duca before he steps away?
I have 2.
Yes.
If you're looking at this building, these 2 to the left, these 2 garages, they're gone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then everything else here that's concrete is going to be paved over with a cap?
I think Mr. Jeffries is going to indicate what he's going to do with in general, I believe so.
Mr.
Mr. Del
DeLuca.
Duca's the attorney.
Right, but I don't think he really, he said like where he was going to fix where stuff needed work or.
Mr. Jeffers can
I mean,
address
I
that.
like how this looks. You see the macadam all over, no concrete, no, I mean,
All the
it's stuff's been
concrete's
there
coming
for.
up, going to
50
be
years.
replaced with new asphalt.
Okay, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I'm moving.
Question, Mr. Del Duca? Mr. Jeffers, thank you.
Thank you. Any need for me to qualify, Mr. Jeffers, for the
No,
record?
I think so.
Before.
That's what I
He's
thought.
old hat.
Well, then we'll go right to the good stuff. Mr. Jeffers, were you present during my opening remarks?
I was.
Were they factually accurate?
Yes, they were.
Okay. Did you prepare the site plan set that we submitted for approval to the board?
I did.
So what I'd like to do is get an overview of the proposed site plan. And let's start by doing this from the customer experience. What the customer will do when they enter the site, all the way to where they leave, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Okay, I'd like to refer to the rendered site plan and start out by talking about how the customer is going to enter into the site and how they're going to circulate through the site. Currently, there's an entrance driveway on the western side. Let's use, for purpose of this conversation, the top of the page as the north, left is the west. Western side of the site, there's an existing ingress driveway that will continue to remain. Customers will enter in there. There will be 2 lines that will form and enter into 2 pay stations that are located here in the northwestern portion of the site. After going through the automated pay station, cars will then circulate around the back of the building as they currently do to access the tunnel entrance, which is located at the rear of the building. This is where they enter in the car wash. Automated car wash will come through. The car will then exit out at the front part of the building. Currently, these cars, once they would exit, would stage and then exit right out into the intersection, as we all know. That intersection is signalized, but there's no signal that addresses the car wash exit. So the people that are coming out now have to deal with a left turn, right turn lane, right in the middle of that intersection. After extensive coordination with the board engineer as well as the county engineer, because Columbus Bridge Road is a county road, it was agreed upon that the driveway, the existing driveway at the intersection would be closed and relocated easterly to in front of lot 11. So customers coming out will then make a left turn onto lot 11, enter into the area of the vacuum stations if they choose to use that, or if not, they can make a right turn and then exit out on the site onto Clements Bridge Road.
So the access that you just described, that's been preliminarily approved by the county?
That is correct.
Okay. And is it correct that the intersection here is an unusual one based on the angles and the number of roads with Schubert and Stratford Adams, right?
Very much so. And they signalize it adds another level of complexity to that, which we needed to work through with the county and the board engineer to get an exit that was not only safe but efficient and proper for the site. The site is a very unique site, being located right on the intersection itself.
Now, Teal, are we allowing right and left-hand turns out of that single exit?
In discussions with the county asked us to have that as a full access egress, a left turn and right turn, but limited to peak hours where it would then, we have an advisory sign that we're posting where there'd be no left turns during peak hours of 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m.
And that's what the county had asked us to do?
That's what the county had asked us to do, yes.
And what's the proximity to the traffic light?
The exit lane here is behind the stop bar on Clements Bridge Road heading westbound. The intersection itself and the light is in this area here.
But you have 2 lanes there, Teal, when you come out of there. You have the left hand.
There's a left turn lane and there's a straight lane.
So you're,
Which the concerns that you're expressing are exactly the concerns that we had when we started looking at this in terms of how do we accomplish this. And we met twice with the county to go through this. We met with Steve's office once to go through this as well. The concern with putting that out to the intersection was the impact to the light, the signals, and all the other streets. It is not a great situation coming out into that intersection.
Taking a left now.
So the only ability we had to move that driveway out of that intersection would be to move it down here.
And if I can, because I was involved with many workshops with Teal and also been following the track through the county. Right now, we have complete unrestricted access coming out of the car wash and the whole width of the car wash going every which way, and also the former, I'm going to call it the Auto Spa building and the Blue Bricks Unlimited building.
I was just going to say,
So
there's
this is a dramatic improvement in terms of what is there. It is not perfect,
I agree.
but also, I believe if we start, this is the only egress out of the site, this one driveway. If we restrict left turns out of here, I think we're going to be making this project non-functional. Because no one's going to go to a project that doesn't have at least left turns on certain times. I will suggest that from my own experience and reviewing the traffic impact report, and hopefully Mr. Nathan Mosley of Shropshire can indicate that there are gaps. There are gaps in that stacking lane when the light is green that will accommodate those left turns. So I would ask if we could hold off on any additional questions till we hear from the traffic expert, because they coordinated at length with the county, because there was conversations on, my understanding, many different conversations, including adding additional playheads, which would even cause further play on the Clements Bridge. So, good.
Thank you, Teal.
So customers who want to leave the site, you talk about how they leave. What if they want to vacuum their cars? Just briefly walk through that process.
If they want to vacuum their cars, as they exit the tunnel and make that left turn, they'll come up here, then they have the decision to make it left into the vacuum station area, use that, and then when they go to leave, they would then be forced to come out this driveway. They would not be able to come back in front of the site. This would be a one-way circulation across the front, and then a one-way exiting the site at that point.
Okay. And is it correct that we're reducing the size of the building, as I described?
We are reducing the size of the building. Currently, the building is approximately 4,324 square feet. The 2 service bays on the western side of the building are being removed, which reduces the square footage down to, it was about 3,635 square feet, if I recall, 3,435, excuse me, 3,435 square feet.
Okay. Stormwater, how are we addressing stormwater?
First, with regard to stormwater, the improvements at the site, the manipulation of the site is not classified as a major development under the New Jersey stormwater rules. The improvements here, as you can see with the green color, which represents the pervious areas, will actually increase the amount of pervious areas on the site by a significant amount. The area is approximately 5,045 square feet of new pervious areas or landscaped areas that are being created. With that, we have an overall, when we look at the site from an overall perspective, we have a reduction in the overall runoff rate from the site. The drainage characteristics in the car wash area itself will remain as it currently is, with the northern portion of the site draining to the rear into 3rd Avenue, the southern portion of the site draining out to Clements Bridge Road. Lot 11 here, where the vacuum stations are located, currently drains, and even with the building that was recently demolished, currently drains in a northeasterly direction into the driveway and onto lot 201 and ultimately to the north. That drainage condition is going to remain because there is a drop off and a change in grade as we go across lot 11. To deal with that and not have an impact on the neighbors, we are proposing to have an inlet installed in that vacuum station with an equalization pipe, and then the equalization pipe will have a series of 4-inch pipes that will come out through a retaining wall that is proposed along this eastern side, again to deal with the change in grade as you go down across that lot. And those pipes will discharge out to the wall into a stone bed that's located here along the eastern side of lot 2.01. When we evaluated this area and the area going into lot 2.01 under proposed conditions, we will have a reduction in the overall area that drains to 2.01 and a reduction in the runoff rate that goes to lot 2.01. Some portion of this front portion of lot 11 will be redirected out to the county road.
If it is for the board's application, the height of the retaining wall, it's not significant, it's not 8 foot high.
No, the height of that retaining wall, I believe at the worst case scenario in the back is approximately 5 feet. There's going to be a fence along the top of that wall that will extend around. There'll be landscaping and screening along the back to soften that view and to screen that view. There is an existing retaining wall on the northern side of lot 11 that will remain, and the new wall will tie into that and then wrap around the front and work back into existing grade.
Unless there are any questions about stormwater, I'll continue on. Let's talk about the buffer. I mentioned that we require a variance for the buffer width. Can you identify where we need that relief?
Sure. The ordinance requires a 20-foot landscape buffer be applied and established along the common lines with a residential zone. In this particular case, that applies to the northwestern portion of the site and the northern portion of the site, or the property lines, I should say, where this green is identified. This area is currently a landscape buffer area now. There is a 6-foot-high white vinyl fence in here with evergreen plantings and a mixture of evergreen and deciduous plantings along the northern side. That 20-foot buffer extends in to the existing drive aisle on both the western and the northern side. This is where we're requesting the relief for the existing conditions, where at the narrowest point it comes down to approximately 4.5 feet. The plans are indicating for that buffer to be supplemented with some additional plantings, any dead plantings to be replaced. In discussion with the board engineer, Steve asked that we have a site meeting afterwards to pinpoint where some of those plantings would go. We would be glad to do that and kind of narrow that down and determine where some of those plantings would be most appropriate.
Let's focus on the portion of the site that's in the R1 zone. It's that square that's in the rear of the site, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you identify, now today there's a car wash there,
Sure.
cars circulating into the tunnel there today, correct?
That is correct.
So the use is not changing, correct?
That's correct.
Now, what physical changes are we proposing in the R1 portion of the site?
Okay, with regard to the physical changes, let's talk about some of the items that we're removing, and then we'll talk about some of the items that are being installed. First, there's currently a vacuum system located here at the entrance of the tunnel, where the workers vacuum out the cars when you get out, or when the customer gets out of the car. That will be removed. That whole vacuum system will be relocated to the front and then integrated into the vacuum system for those stalls here. So that'll be removed. There's an existing wall-mounted wall pack light on the back of the building that has an open source. That will be removed. This area also is striped to have some parking, and there's some miscellaneous storage of items in that area, as well as the trash dumpster. They will be removed. The trash dumpster will be relocated into a new enclosure. We're adding a ADA accessible parking space here, and then we're also adding the 2 pay stations here in the northwestern corner. The balance of the site, in terms of the physical improvements, will remain. We're restriping for better control here, and we're adding in some railing along the retaining wall that exists along the edge of the entrance drive.
Will any of those changes in that R1 portion of the site have any appreciable impact or difference, make any difference to the residential neighbors to the north of 3rd Avenue?
Well, first, with removal of the vacuum system, you're going to remove that as a noise source. Right now, that's a very loud noise source in the back. That's going to be removed. The wall-mounted light is an open glare. It's a wall pack style light. That's going to be removed. The new lighting that's going to be installed will be a full cutoff down light, which we will add some additional shielding to help mitigate and offset, prevent any potential glare issues with the neighbors. But that's going to improve the lighting in the back vertically. It's going to eliminate any glare going off site. So with the improvements, we're going to be removing a source of noise. We're going to be eliminating a light glare. We're going to be addressing the light conditions. We're going to be enhancing the landscape buffer. So all in all, we see that as a positive impact versus a negative impact of the neighboring properties.
And will there be any speaker associated with those kiosks?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I'd like to talk about the bulk variances that I identified. First, coverage. I'm going to give you some numbers. I want to make sure that these are correct. So the coverage in the R1 zone is permitted to be 35%. My understanding is that we're currently at 86.8% today in that portion of the site. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And according to your plans, we propose to reduce that to 77.4% in that portion of the site.
That's correct.
Okay. In the commercial portion of the site, we're allowed 50% coverage. And today, we're almost at 100%. We're at 98.5, right?
That's correct.
And we propose to reduce that to 82.1%.
That's correct.
So if that those variances aren't granted, the coverage would stay the same, which would be more than what's proposed.
That is correct.
And not to interrupt, just on that
Yeah.
residential,
Yeah.
reduction to 77.4.
0.4.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then on that same note, to try to eliminate the coverage to meet those requirements would make the site useless for this particular use. We just wouldn't have enough physical coverage to accommodate this use.
Because a car wash requires covers like this.
That is correct.
And with the reduction in coverage, we're improving the landscaping that's on the site today.
That's correct.
The loading variance, is it correct that we don't propose a loading space because of the nature of the deliveries to the site?
That is correct. Deliveries coming into the site are not brought in by tractor trailer or services that would require a designated loading space or loading dock. It's just not needed for this type of use.
So for the buffer variance, 4.5 on one side, 4.9 feet on the other at the top towards 3rd Avenue, where 20 feet is required. Is it correct, Mr. Jeffers, that if we comply with the 20-foot setback requirement, we couldn't operate the car wash on this site with the building oriented the way it is?
That's correct. It would eliminate the drive aisle and the turning space in the back. We just wouldn't be able to accommodate that in that space.
And is that due in part to the shape of the lot?
The lot is very unique in its shape because it becomes very narrow as it comes into the residential zone. And then with the imposition of those requirements, it further restricts the usable space within that residential zone. So yeah, it is directly affected by that.
The last variance that I believe requires side yard setback for the building, can you point to where that is?
Correct. The side yard setback to the building is situated here, where the building is set back at 9.6 feet from the adjacent side lot line.
And 10 feet is required?
And 10 feet is required, yes.
That's an existing condition.
That's an existing condition that is not changing, that's correct.
Can you put up the proposed building, if you would, which I believe is Exhibit A5?
Hey, Teal,
Yes.
just before we turn the page, if you wouldn't mind, just for my edification, where are the employees going to park? While we're on this exhibit.
The employees will have the opportunity to park here and here, on this side of the building.
How many employees will be there on a
You're
given?
going to hear testimony from
Yeah,
Mr. Cullen, but
I
at
just
the
wanted to see
busiest
that
time,
page.
it's going to be
That's fine.
3 at most. So there are very few employees. That's part of the express car lot. You'll hear the reasons why,
Cool
but
beans.
it's a fairly automated.
Thank you, Teal.
So the rendering of the building, Exhibit A5, I want to address the comments Mr. Bach raised before you began testifying. So this is your understanding of what the building will look like, correct?
That is correct. This is a rendering prepared by DJ Architecture for the building that was submitted as part of the application.
And I'll call these the south and the west elevations, okay? Because they show 2 sides of the building.
South being this front facade, west being the side facade. Yes,
Correct. Will the elevations on the north and the east be consistent with what you see on this exhibit?
that is my understanding. That's correct, yes.
And is the building going to be renovated or replaced?
The building is going to be renovated. The area of the bays here on the side will be removed. Building would be renovated. This portion of the building, which you see is a little taller than the balance, will be a new structure that's built within the footprint of the existing building.
Great. Will the building height comply with the ordinance maximum?
It will, yes.
So we don't seek any relief for building.
That is correct.
Building signs, do we seek any relief for any signs, not just building signs?
We do not. There are 2 signs. There's a pylon sign. Existing pylon sign is proposed to be removed. A new pylon sign is proposed to be installed, as well as a new facade sign. Both of those signs will comply with the ordinance requirements.
Last but not least, lighting. Will the proposed lighting comply with all ordinance requirements in the borough of Runnemede to the best of your knowledge?
It will, yes.
And will it create any light spillage or glare on the adjacent residential properties?
We're not anticipating that it will. The board engineer asked if we can incorporate some additional light shields to make sure that that's not an issue, and we'd be glad to do so.
Great. Madam Chair, that's all the questions I have.
Any questions for Mr. Jeffers?
Yes. I'd like you to take a look back at the I guess that's Exhibit A4. And I want to look at the vacuum area, because there's a similar car wash that currently I'm using in Blackwood with its automated. But if you look at the stalls for vacuuming, you've got 5, from Clements Bridge, you have 5 on the left side, 7 on the right side.
Right.
The question I have is this. The stall on the right side closest to Clements Bridge Road, you're pulling your vehicle straight in. When that person's done vacuuming to back out, they're going to be backing right into the traffic that's exiting the car wash and leaving. I don't know if that's a good spot to be having a vacuum stall. I would think that would be better not having one there, because you're going to be backing right out into cars that have decided not to vacuum and want to leave the property. Closest to the Clements Bridge on the right side.
This one right here.
Yep.
The drive aisle, one of the comments that we included when we had met with Steve and the mayor, the concern there was maneuverability of that space. And one of the things that we did is we widened that drive aisle within the vacuum station to 30 feet. Normally, a drive aisle is 24 to 25 feet. We widened it to 30 to give more maneuverability in this space here, with the anticipation that that vehicle would be able to back out very easily into the drive aisle servicing the vacuum stations and then pulling out the Clements Bridge Road.
I agree with that, except for the fact that you're going to have cars that are going to exit and not even vacuum. You could be exiting and then that person's backing out, or we're going to have a collision.
With regard to this movement here, we would not anticipate that, but that's something we could look at, and if necessary, we could look at maybe putting in a stop bar in here so the cars coming out of the tunnel would temporarily stop before making that right turn. We could look at that and see if that's warranted, but, you know, appreciate that concern, we'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
And Mr. Jeffries, is that something that you can agree to right now, just having that as a stop bar?
Yeah, we can.
Because that would give at least, if there's going to be another gap, there's going to be a gap when people coming out of the tunnel, in terms of certain delay it takes to get through the tunnel.
Sure.
And there's going to be a gap in terms of a period of time that people are actually in the stall vacuuming, but at least it gives direction to the people coming out of the tunnel, out of the car wash, that they are required to stop. And I think that might address your comment.
Yeah, thank you.
So Steve, the applicant will install a stop bar in the area of the exit?
Yeah, at the exit.
The tunnel exit, yeah.
There's already do not enter.
We'll install stop bar in area, what did you refer to that as, Damien?
Tunnel and
Tunnel exit.
Tunnel exit, okay, so
Stop
that's
bar
a
and stop.
condition.
All right, stop sign as well.
Are there any questions, Mr. Jeffers? Okay, thank you, Teal.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next witness will be Mr. Cullen. Abe Cohen, everyone. Mr. Cohen, are you one of the owners of this facility?
Yes,
Okay, and were you here tonight for the entire hearing?
yes,
Okay, were my introductory comments factually accurate to the best of your knowledge?
yes.
Can you tell us about some of the other, how many locations you have, how many other car wash locations you have?
So my brother and I have 4 other locations, and Ricky, the other partner here, has a location right here in Austin City.
So this is your 6th location overall, correct? And did you buy this property about a year ago?
Correct.
So why are you proposing to make these significant renovations, this significant investment in this site in Runnemede?
So the old school car wash, which was here before, which we actually ran for a while, it does not really practical in today's climate. The labor shortage and the cost of labor is just astronomical. We ran car washes of that type for a few years. But the customer experience is just dramatically better. I think someone mentioned Blackwood, which I think did a similar conversion, and I'm assuming it's going well there. It's much more efficient because the time for the customer on site is literally, if you don't vacuum, it could be under 5 minutes total on site. If you're a member, which we would offer a monthly unlimited membership, it could even be less than that. On a weekday, you could be on the site for 2 or 3 minutes and be out. As opposed to an old car wash where you could be 20 minutes and you got out of the car and the guys are vacuuming and there's 10 or 12 employees at any given time. And it's just a much more efficient, friendly customer experience.
What do you propose for your hours of operation? I know it's subject to change, but what do you propose currently?
Generally, it would be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. During the spring and summer, we may go to 6 on the week, on Friday and Saturday. Sometimes we go an hour later.
And what are your busiest times?
Busiest times would be, busiest weekday times generally would be middle of the day, lunch hour, and then of course the weekends are the busiest of the week, of the total week.
And for this express car wash, what do you anticipate to be the maximum number of employees working at the busiest time?
We'd have 3, again, not all the time, but probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the 3 would be, there'd be 1 attendant at the, what we call the pay stations to help out customers who wanted to sign up, or if something went wrong there, or money got stuck in the machine, things like that. Then we'd have someone all the time, permanently guiding people onto the conveyor at the entrance to the tunnel. And then during busy times, we'd have somebody at the vacuum area cleaning up trash. There'd be a trash receptacle at each station, but unloading that and keeping the place clean.
Will any of these employees be drying cars at the tunnel exit?
No.
Will you give us an idea of the types of deliveries you expect, and how often, what kind of trucks, and what time do they usually come?
So the only delivery, there's no convenience store with this model because the customer doesn't get out of the car. So the only thing being delivered is chemicals, soap and tire shine, things like that, which is generally 1 or 2 vendors. And it's usually once, depending of course how busy it is, could be once every 2 weeks. If it's very busy, once a week, not more than that. And those deliveries, they're not the old school 55-gallon drums, are not really what's used anymore. It's a much more condensed chemical that gets mixed with water, so they're usually in 5-gallon buckets, and they're usually either in a box truck or one of those vans, you know, high vans and stuff. So that's really the only delivery, which would be at most once a week.
Okay.
You get that?
So do you have a need for a loading space or loading area?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. That's all the questions I have.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Cohen?
2 questions. Is Mr. Cohen going to give testimony regarding the 4 facades?
Mr. Jeffers just did that.
Okay,
But
so that's.
do you want to confirm that, Mr. Cohen?
Yeah, all 4 sides would be
It's all
new
good.
stucco.
Yep.
New stucco and new roof.
Yes.
All right. The other question is, will there always be at least 1 employee on site at all times when you're open?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Can I ask you a question? I might have missed this, but what were your hours of operation?
Generally 8 to 5.
8 to 5? and
Spring and
6?
summer, we
6.
usually go to 6 on certain days.
So you would close down, nobody's going to be running vacuums after 6 o'clock?
No.
So that all shut down?
Yeah, it's a central vac that's controlled from
So
inside.
you shut everything
And
down?
yeah, so the nozzles, there's nothing coming out.
Right, so if I'm coming home from meeting and Runnemede, I can't vacuum my car.
No.
12 o'clock?
Everything's
Gotcha.
shut down.
Would you agree to that as a condition of approval?
Sure.
All right, and I think that's important for Dave to know the resolution.
That the condition would be, and I want to make sure this is accurate, that the vacuums will be turned off when the business is closed.
Sure.
Right, so we don't have people, like I do, stopping at places to vacuum, when they're closed.
Anything else from Mr. Cohen?
Maybe Mr. Cohen can answer this question. Is there any increase to the wastewater flow that currently goes into the borough sanitary sewer system? Is there any change?
There shouldn't be. We plan to put in a reclaim system, so 50 to 60% of the water, actually probably reduced.
It'll probably be reduced, but it won't be increased.
No, 50, 60% of the water should be recycled, of which now there's none is being recycled. All goes in sewer.
None is being recycled.
Currently.
It goes right into sewer.
So it's definitely going to be better. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Lastly, we have Mr. Moses. Oh, yeah, sure.
So when you shut down at 5, 6, whatever, so I can still drive in there, correct? Like, is any kind of chain put up or any
So
kind of?
normally we put cones, we actually do that now too, but usually we put cones blocking the entrance and the exit to the property.
Okay.
And then the pay stations themselves, the gates would be locked.
Gotcha.
So you really couldn't get past there anyway if you drove it.
There is the ability, that's one of the concerns of the workshop, if someone does enter the site, there is the ability to turn around in the core striped area
Right.
on the U, and for them to turn around and get back out. So they don't have to go through the tunnel to exit the site.
I got you.
They can turn around and
Yeah.
come back out.
Any else from Mr. Cohen? Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Mr. Mosley, just some brief testimony, I promise. Good evening, Mr. Mosley.
Look,
Can you very briefly summarize your professional background?
sure.
Mr. Mosley can qualify as
Fine.
a traffic expert.
No worries.
For this board. Any objection?
Shropshire?
Shropshire,
Very
correct.
good.
Mr. Mosley, you issued a report dated February 16, 2023 that was submitted with this application, did you not?
Yes, that's correct.
What was the purpose of that report?
Yeah, so the purpose of that report was really to evaluate the existing traffic conditions that are out there today, to evaluate any potential increase in traffic that will occur as a result of the redevelopment of the existing car wash to provide for the new amenities, and then to evaluate the proposed reconfiguration of the access, specifically the outbound driveway location based upon our input from the county.
Can you take us through what you looked at and your conclusions?
Sure. So when we went out there, the first thing we wanted to do was do traffic counts at this existing intersection. We've already heard some testimony from Mr. Jeffers and the applicant, as well as from Mr. Bach, as far as the existing conditions. That existing car wash facility, the way the driveway was set up today, that outbound driveway is in the middle of the intersection. Really, most of these properties' entire frontage is within the intersection, and when you have access within the middle of an intersection that's not controlled by the traffic signal, that really becomes problematic from a traffic access and safety perspective. So, we're able to actually improve the conditions of the access for the future property by being able to relocate the outbound driveway outside of the middle of the intersection behind the stop bars along Clements Bridge Road. So the first thing we did was we went out and we did traffic counts. We did those counts on weekday conditions in the afternoon from 4 to 6, and then on Saturday as well from 11 to 2. Typically the peak times for a express car wash facility are in the afternoons or on a Saturday on a weekend. One thing I will say about Clements Bridge Road, I did also look at some historical data from the NJDOT that looks and shows traffic counts throughout the entire day, is that outside of like the morning peak period from 7 to 9 and the afternoon peak period from 4 to 6 or maybe 3 to 6 depending on the day, traffic volumes do go down. So that generally the other times are 10 or 20 or more % less than those peak times in the morning or in the afternoon. So, we always look at the worst case scenario, and that's what you want to do when you do a traffic study. But as far as, the rest of the day goes, traffic volumes are reduced along Clements Bridge Road compared to those peak times. But that being said, we obviously have to look at the peak times and make sure that we can provide for safe and efficient access. So we've had extensive conversations with the county, and what we're proposing to do is have the outbound driveway be located outside the stop bars and be limited during those peak periods to a right turnout only and not have any left turns occur. And that is because of the potential issue with left turns, be able to negotiate through the queues that occur, be able to safely make a left turn out.
How are you going to enforce that?
So there will be signage. I would imagine we would grant any kind of authorization, but there would be a signage if an ordinance were if an ordinance were passed by the borough, that would be enforceable, and there could be tickets issued for it. But we will provide the on-site signage for that control.
Would the applicant agree to Title 59?
Yeah, the applicant would agree to Title 39 enforcement.
39, thank you.
No worries.
39, 59.
What is chapter 159?
Tomato, tomato.
The auditor about today.
Now, what are you considering the peak hours that you restrict the turn?
So the peak hours would be from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and from 4 to 6 p.m. in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. Those are the busiest times for Clements Bridge Road. Saturdays typically are lower in volume as far as overall traffic intensities. So our count showed that like the Saturday peak hour is several hundred vehicles less through this area compared to the weekday PM.
So for identification, what is this Title 30, what is
Oh, I'm sorry. Title
what's the
39.
teeth of that?
Sorry. Title 39 allows for the police department to write tickets if they're not complying with the signage and stop bars and everything else. If they so choose, not required, but if they so choose, they can write tickets for non-compliance on a private site. Am I correct?
Yes. Normally on private property.
Because as we all know, that a lot of, say the Acme, they have we call them advisory signs that tell you to stop, or yield or whatever. And, it's not really a legal sign per se, but folks, I think that if we were concerned about that, I think Chief Shampolsky would be happy to stage an officer there for the first, few busy times of the operation to business, just to state a presence, to make sure that the folks that are exiting are complying. We don't want to necessarily, we're very business friendly, so we don't want to cause an undue burden on the applicant and make it a bad taste in anyone's mouth per se. I think just like at the school, like at the banks, sometimes they have an empty car parked there. That the folks just get it in their minds, okay, gosh, that's an advisory sign, it says I shouldn't make that turn, and if there's a police car just sitting there, I know Chief Shampolsky would do that for us.
Well, with this Title 39, you write tickets.
Right.
Or we can't without it.
Right, well, we definitely want to 39, I'm just saying, we're not looking to, to start putting the hammer down on day one.
Chief Samples, you made aware of this? How do we make them aware of this?
It'll be part of the resolution.
Okay, so we should follow the resolution then.
It'll be a condition. If the applicant has agreed, a condition that they'll apply.
Right, but I mean,
NJSA
my point is,
39.
we gotta make sure that they know, because they don't get anything we do.
Who's that?
The police.
Again, that's internal, that would be.
I'll make sure,
Yeah.
I'll be sure of it, not a problem.
Okay.
That's our housekeeping issue.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So why can't we have a sign that comes on from 7 to 9 saying no left turn? And then it goes out, but it's controlled by, I'm sure they have stuff in this day and age. Maybe you never heard of it, I never did, but I'm just thinking out loud. So that way people, hey, I didn't see that sign, or I wasn't aware of that. You know what I mean? Like something like, you know how at night or whatever, something flashes when you pull up to something? and-
Yeah, I have not seen those types of signs, but the fact that they didn't see it isn't gonna get them out of the ticket, chief.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this-
No, but at least, no, I ain't worried about it. If they do it, they get the ticket, I don't care. But what my thought is, if somebody pulls up to that stop sign before they enter into the traffic, you know what I mean? Like, hey, it's between 7 and 9, when the sign's lit up, no left turn. Can't be that hard to do.
I hear you, I mean, if you're trying to, actuate it relative to the vehicle pulling up, I think, just having a sign just simplifies things, there's not gonna be an issue whether or not it comes on or not, whether or not it's visible, and everything else. I understand the comment,
Yeah.
to make it as visible as possible, and I think, we'll look at the detail and make sure the sign is.
I think it just
large
trains
enough.
people more that, hey, I come in, and let's face it, people, like we all live in Runnemede, most of us, we're all gonna use it. So our thought is, when you're trained to do something in certain hours, you do it. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. I think that, if you're trying to get out of that driveway, you're not gonna.
Yeah, the best thing to do is to go right.
Speed times anyway, because
Yeah.
it's gonna be very difficult to make the left.
Mr. Bernstein,
Gotcha.
just follow up and supplement the question. Are you aware of any manual and uniform traffic control signage that operates?
I'm not aware of a specific sign,
See,
it would have to be
and-
something customized to this.
Yeah, and-
Railroad has them. On railroad crossings where, like on East Atlantic Avenue and Warwick, when the train's coming, no right turn onto Warwick Road.
Flashes up.
It pops on. And there's also one on Cuthbert and Wedhurst Pike.
Yeah, I mean, those are tied into the signal operation,
Right.
which are part of the entire rail crossing. This would be, not that type of.
I mean, it'd be just as easy to have something like that on a timer.
I think that Mr. Vanel's making a very good point, because if you go from Runnemede towards the Deptford Wall, there's a Walmart on your right-hand side, and people coming in the opposite direction, there's a sign, you cannot make a left-hand turn in that driveway, and they do it all the time. So he's making a valid point.
So if the light flashes, it's gonna change, you think that's gonna?
Oh, I don't know if it will. Yes.
There was somebody killed.
Probably not with some people.
Right.
I mean,
That's my point.
The county would have to approve something as well, since it's going along their right of way and control their access, it's their access and their controls. I mean, I personally feel like the signage we have proposed is sufficient to provide for safety. If there's additional concerns, we can work with your board professionals, and we have to work with the county as well. They would have to approve something that would be different from what we currently show.
My suggestion is, I'm not aware of non-rail crossing sign that's approved by the manual and uniform traffic control, which is the signage and the standard that we use for all municipal signage. I do not want to use anything that's not already per standard. County's going to require the same standard that we require as a borough, which is the manual uniform, MUTCD. I'd rather just keep it straight and simple. And
that's fine, I just figured, let me throw it
So,
out.
yeah, you have to ask. You have to ask.
I think a police presence is going to do more than anything. And once you start writing tickets, if you so deem that you have to, I mean, I would ask Billy, Chief Sampolsky, to please issue warnings before we start writing actual tickets. But I think once folks start getting a warning if they're doing the wrong thing, and we give it a month or two, and then if there's a problem, then we have to issue, tickets. I mean, we don't want to do that, but hopefully, like you said, people will just fall into place and comply and think that that's probably not a good idea.
And can I ask Mr. Del Duca one hopeful favor? For the Title 39, would you agree that you will send a copy of it directly to the
Absolutely.
police department?
So,
So,
resolution, I was thinking I'll take care of that.
yeah, that
I was
way,
going to
it's
do
going
it.
to be right from the applicant, the signed version
Thank you.
going right to the
Yeah.
police department.
Yeah, thank you, Steve, that was.
Is there anything else for our traffic engineer?
I mean, the only thing I just wanted to say was just overall, looking at the access, the proposed location, design, and operation, this is a significant improvement. I think given the limitations of both of these properties, we have obviously some great issues over here that prohibit us from moving the driveway any further over. This really is the optimal location for that outbound driveway, given everything else that's going on there to provide for that safe egress. And as the project team, we looked at this for a while, trying to figure this one out. We discussed it with the county and with Steve, and even though it's maybe not your typical type of driveway you would see, this is, I think, given the restrictions and limitations of these properties, the best option for a safe exit.
Mr. Mosley, am I correct in understanding that the county did not want to add another signal head to this intersection?
Yeah, I mean, the county doesn't want to modify the signal beyond what it already is today.
Right. And what I heard is they didn't want to decrease the green time on Clemens Bridge or do anything with the existing imperfect signal except for getting the free flow out of the car wash and putting it behind a stop bar.
Correct, getting that driveway out of the intersection.
I will agree that it's been the Wild West over there for many, many years. I've known John and those folks that own all this spot for years. I always tried to patronize them, but it's the Wild West, getting in, getting out. So hopefully, we'll see some improvement there, and hopefully the folks will fall into a place with being safe. Anything else for our traffic engineer?
Just want to go back to bring Mr. Jeffers back up with our traffic engineer, Mr. Bach. The plans are not showing on the western side, there's a crosswalk that the pedestals are up. It was repaved through Saturday's gas and was never restriped. Okay, and that's rear driveway entrance in. It's offset just a couple of feet. The ADA handicap is not being shown.
You have a crosswalk over
From
Clemens
her,
Bridge?
there's one from
To the left.
her.
Where the entryway is.
Yes, it goes, it's where it's actually freshly paved flat is where the crosswalk is, supposed to be. There is 2 pedestal light standards up, and on the property with the new landscape, it's not showing the crosswalk.
It's definitely not shown on the plans. I don't see it on the aerial. Maybe it's new.
No, it's existing, it's just, that black was repaved from the aerial that's there, it's a newer picture, and we've been arguing with Saturday's gas to repave it, or
So it's been
repaint
historically
it,
there.
but the lights are up, the pedestals are still up.
Right.
It's on your existing lights, and it's going to interfere with it's offset from the driveway entrance, but there is a handicap walkway that should be installed, and is there a safety that we need to do for that, right at that entrance?
So maybe a ramp to get access to that.
Yeah, it's not going to,
Well, that's something we'll take a look at it. If need be, we can accommodate that and include a ramp to tie that back into the new sidewalk.
right, and just make sure that where it is with the entrance, it's not going to create a safety
From
problem.
where that photo indicates, it appears that it would be just to the east of the driveway.
East, yeah, that little square is not marked on the plan, which shows the traffic light.
Right.
So-
That's
So you have part of that,
So
so just
the
make
condition
sure
would be to install a handicap ramp at the crosswalk location on the southern driveway.
There's one there today, we'll look at that and see what the existing conditions are, Steve, and if it needs.
Existing and historical, so just,
Yeah,
so historical, so if it's unpaved right now, because we're fighting with the gas company on who's gonna paint it, if you would look back, that crosswalk has to be
we'll
maintained.
evaluate what the existing ramp looks like today.
I don't think there is, but
Looks like there may
You're-
be at least a technical-
you'll have a compliant ramp.
What was that?
Well,
I wasn't clear on your answer, Matt.
well,
It would be located approximately here to the east side of the inbound driveway. It's outside of where that existing driveway is today.
Well, the reason I'm, Mr. Dupton, the reason I want it to be agreed to, because they're replacing the sidewalk and curbing along the entire frontage, and they're putting a ramp up from the curb depression back onto the sidewalk. So we believe that handicap cross should be addressed all at the same time.
I agree.
Okay.
So give me what the condition's going to be, Steve.
That they will have a compliant ADA ramp,
All right, we'll install.
a compliant
Not here now?
ADA ramp,
Wait, hold on.
ADA ramp
ADA ramp.
that would serve the Clemens Ridge Road crosswalk.
On Ridge Road crosswalk.
To the east, well, to the, I'm gonna call it, the southern drive. It's going by the drive aisle.
So that serves the Clement Bridge Road crosswalk southern
At the southern side driveway.
at southern driveway. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions for our traffic engineer?
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Madam Chair, that concludes our plan presentation. I don't know if there's anyone from the public. I know you'll open it to the public. And the only thing I'll add is, just as it relates to the use variance and the standard for that, very briefly. So when you have a use variance for a commercial site like this, we have to prove that we promote the general welfare because the site is particularly suitable for the car wash, for the express car wash. And of course, we have to satisfy the negative criteria as well. In this case, I think that's simply done. We have an existing car wash, we're making it better. This site has functioned for many years as a car wash, and therefore I think it stands to reason that it's particularly suitable for a car wash. It's at a unique intersection. There aren't many sites things that will work at this location, but this site is particularly suitable for a car wash, as evidenced by the many years of operation of a car wash. And we're only making it better, and that promotes the general welfare. A new, efficient, state-of-the-art, convenient car wash compared to an old, tired, full-service car wash that's out of date, definitely promotes the general welfare. And so we think the use variance is warranted. So that concludes our plan presentation.
Damien, will you agree to consolidate all three lots?
Yes, we will. That was in Steve's letter, and we agreed to that as well.
Okay, and Damien, I'm going to presume that you're requesting the waivers that Steve has set forth in his review letter, 1 through 6.
Correct, those are all submission waivers, details.
Submission waivers,
Yeah.
well, I like to put them in the resolution.
Thank you. We do request those, and as I understand, there was no objection from Mr. Vaughn.
And they were recommended.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, at this point in time, we're going to open up the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this application and this application only, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and be heard.
Seeing no one from the public wishing to speak on this matter, I make a motion to close the public portion.
Motion by Mr. Ockley, second by Ms. Gushen. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Mr. Rowan.
Okay, this is an application regarding 705, 707 East Clemens Bridge Road, Block 126, Lots 3, 10.02 and 11. Part of it, as Mr. Del Duca indicated, this is a split zoning, which will be a total consolidated lot. Part of it lies in our R1 residential zone, and the remainder in commercial zone. This is an application for preliminary final site plan and use variance to continue the car wash facility and certain bulk variances and waivers. There are also, I'll enumerate the bulk variances that are requested. There's a side yard request where our ordinance requires a 10-foot minimum side yard setback. And I believe they testified that they're requesting to continue the existing 9.6 foot.
That was a typo in our.
Because I saw 8 foot in your.
It's 9.6, I do apologize for that.
That's fine, just so I have it right. And they're also requesting a variance for impervious coverage, where our ordinance requires a maximum of 50% of a lot will not be covered, but there was testimony that this project and renovation of the existing car wash is actually going to reduce the impervious coverage to 77.4% on the residential lot, lot 3, and approximately 82.1% on the remaining commercial portion of the lot. You've heard the testimony that the applicant is agreeing to comply with all the recommendations and comments set forth in Mr. Bach's review letter dated April 17th, 2023, which will become a part of this resolution. When you're looking at a use variance, like Mr. Del Duco indicated, you have to weigh the positive and the negative criteria. Mr. Del Duca's argument was this, in fact, enhances and both aesthetically the functionality of the property is really going to be to suit the public needs more so than the old pre-existing building. You can take that into consideration. You can also take into consideration that it is already a car wash there that has existed for a number of years. If you do grant this variance, it appears that the board is going to impose conditions. One of the conditions would be that the applicant will install stop bar and stop signs in the area of the tunnel exit. That the condition that the system operating the outdoor vacuum system will be turned off when the business is closed. Another condition is that the entire building and improvements or additions, whether they're in height, expansion of the height of the building, they will all be refaced in a stucco type material, and that there will be a new roof installed during the renovation process. One of the other conditions that has been represented, that the concrete paving is to be replaced with macadam. I don't know if that's called macadam or blacktop. I don't know.
Asphalt.
Asphalt type top instead of the old concrete, which is still there and apparently isn't disregarded.
We could say asphalt paving.
Asphalt paving, okay. All right, fine. The applicant also agrees to comply with Chapter 39 of NJSA, which will permit our local police department to either monitor or give tickets on site for anybody violating stop signs, directional signs, or other traffic signs which are intended to be placed at the location. Another condition is the applicant will install a compliant ADA ramp that serves Clements Bridge Road regarding the crosswalk in the area of the southern driveway. There are certain waivers that the applicant has requested and are set forth in Mr. Bach's letter, which he recommends be granted.
Mr. Rowan, if I could just add one thing, the applicant indicated that at least one employee will be on site whenever the car wash in operation. I know the applicant is going to enjoy this car wash and operate it for many years. We just want that to travel.
So you want that one condition as an additional condition?
At least one employee on site during
At
operation.
least one employee on site during operation.
Thank you, sir.
I believe, another, I missed this one, two bulk variances where regarding the residential properties that abut this site where the ordinance requires a 20-foot buffer, they are proposing to maintain a buffer of 4.5 feet along those areas. And they have indicated that they're going to comply with Mr. Bach's recommendations regarding landscaping in the area. They're also requesting a bulk variance from the requirement that our ordinance has regarding that loading areas be provided in all commercial properties and sites. And they've given testimony that they really don't need a loading area.
Right.
They've given testimony of when and how their deliveries are made. I believe that correctly sets forth what you're going to be voting on. Once again, I always include in any resolution, if the board does approve this matter, that the refer to Mr. Bach's letter as far as any other conditions or any agreements that were set forth by the applicant or Mr. Del Duca on the record this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Rowan. I just wanted to reiterate that the alternates will not be voting this evening. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Ockley, seconded by Mr. Wozniak. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chairperson Keenan,
Yes.
Mr. Hopperly.
I think this is going to be a beautiful project. I think it's going to be a great improvement on the existing building. I am concerned about the left-hand turn, but I can't see voting no because of that, so my vote is a yes.
Ms. Goshen? Yes. Mr. Buckheim?
Yes.
Mr. Vanilla?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wozniak?
Yes.
And Mr.
You cannot
You
vote.
can't
Not voting. Okay, folks, congratulations.
Okay.
Good luck. Good luck. Appreciate that.
All right, right there.
Okay, I'm going to recommend a 5-minute recess. We're going to get Mr. Lovenstein back up on the court, and we're going to do a 5-minute recess. Okay, we're back in session at 8:20. I'd like to let the record show that Mr. Lovenstein is reseated on the court, and we're going to move to some information on the redevelopment plan. I would like to also let everyone know, I'm sure you all have a copy of this, but in the page 2 of this redevelopment plan, it states that our councilmatic seat was Mr. Ranieri, and that is now has been changed. Mr. Ranieri resigned, and he's been replaced by Mr. Lovenstein. So just make that note for the record, please.
On both plans, it shall be noted.
Yes, both plans. And I will defer to you, Mr. Bach.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So what we're here for this evening, at first I'm just going to introduce two planners from my office that are here for any questions. Candace Canaplo and Chloe Baum. They're the ones that really put the effort in to get both these plans to where they're at right now. We're here to do this is an extension of what was done before. So we already had the determination of need process that we know certain properties along 9th Avenue are in an area that need redevelopment. That's done, public hearing, that's been recognized now by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. This is for the redevelopment plan, and whether the redevelopment plan as presented here is consistent with our master plan. That's the only action here this evening. Is it consistent with our master plan? And we don't have to approve any of the specifics of it. We don't have to go through any of the details of the authorship. We're here only for consistency review. And this is part of the ordinance process for adopting any land use ordinance within the borough. So it's already been under first reading. There's two plans, and we're going to do both. We're going to do them separately because we have to. I'm going to provide testimony of why it's consistent with the master plan. And then I'm going to ask you to make up your own mind whether you believe that's the case. And I would like to do it by resolution. Sample resolutions have been brought to the solicitor. And the vote, even the vote this evening, will be enough for this ordinance to go forward, if successful, forward for the second reading. And we will have a memorializing resolution, so we have it as part of the record in next month. But the first plan, and I'm just gonna say, there's two parts, two redevelopment plans. All of the properties that were in the determination of need on 9th Avenue, which are in essence all the vacant properties on 9th Avenue, as well as the former Lakita, are the 9th Avenue redevelopment lots. That's what the redevelopment area is. We separated it very specifically to two plans. And I'll go through. The two plans are, one, the Lakita property by itself, and the other plan is all the other vacant properties that are undeveloped along 9th Avenue as part of our industrial area. First one I'd like to speak to is the March 2023, Block 135, Lot 32 redevelopment plan. This redevelopment plan has already been approved by council by first reading. This also has been coordinated with potential redeveloper of the Lakita. So with this, we believe this will effectuate the rehabilitation, well, I'm going to use the word redevelopment of that area and finally get that thing off the ground. This is the last step of the process. Once they do the second reading, then the developer, if the council so chooses, can be named, redevelopment agreements to be put in place, and we see some significant action. Why this is consistent with our 2017, a lot of board members here were here for the 2017 master plan, is very specific as one of the goals and objectives is economic development goal to enhance and expand the borough's economic base by promoting growth of business, industry, and employment opportunities. Also, the master plan also encourages redevelopment activities throughout the borough as appropriate. So those two reasons by themselves is why this is consistent with the master plan. The zoning for this included in the redevelopment plan is very specific to this property, the existing building, the existing configuration of the site. And it does allow for the conversion of the Lakita to a residential apartment complex. Many stipulations in terms of parking and also perimeter fencing on all three sides with separation between the adjacent hotel use, I don't know if it's sort of the south, but the hotel use on one side and then the industrial uses on the other side, as well as the wooded area in the back.
And Steve, am I correct in stating that initially the La Quinta property was not part of the redevelopment area and the special needs, that we decided later to add that?
No, it actually was.
Was it? Okay.
It was, and originally contemplated was one plan
Okay.
that did all of the areas, the 9th Avenue lots, including the Lakita.
Okay.
Originally it was contemplated to do one
I
plan.
remember the Black Horse Pike area.
Well, that's a separate one.
A separate one.
That's all.
And then I think later on, we decided to add this.
Add the 9th Avenue parcels.
So, just so you guys know, if you remember correctly, or you weren't on the board, the initial one was for the Black Horse Pike.
Right.
And then we came back and we had discussions on, well, 9th Avenue is an in-need area as well. Why can't we do something with that? And then Mr. Bach's office was inclined to look into that, and that's how we got to this point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and actually you see in the referring resolution, on September 1st, 2020, the borough designated the entirety of these lots, including the first one, which is Block 135, Lot 32, as an area in need of redevelopment. That process was referred to the planning board to make the determination, and then the planning board said, yes, these areas are in need, and referred it back to council, and council on September 1st, 2020, designated the area, specifically this one and the other ones I'll speak to in a moment, as an area in need of redevelopment.
Thank you.
Unless there's any, getting back to my point, the reason we separated this out and not have the same plan is because the Lakita is not a vacant parcel, and it's very specific in terms of what existing is out there in the existing building the existing parking areas, limitations on buffers and things like that. It's not a blank slate. So to make it as clear for the borough and a potential redeveloper to operate on the same rule book, we did a special plan just for that. Because on the vacant properties, if it's going to be developed under redevelopment, we do want certain enhanced buffers, maybe a 20-foot buffer versus some of the limited buffers that we have right now because of the existing Lakita site configuration. So I would ask that the board consider finding this plan consistent with our master plan. And I would ask that by a motion second and a roll call. And I'm here for any questions as well as Kenny's kind of vote and vote aye. And yes, that is my daughter.
Yes, it is. Are there any questions for the professionals from the board?
What if somebody else comes in and wants to use the same use as La Quinta on a cleared surface, meaning there's nothing there now? So this is like a spot zone for La Quinta.
This
correct?
Redevelopment is allowed to be spot zone. Redevelopment plans can be specific.
All right, so somebody comes in and says, man, I like what they did. I want to build that on down at the corner of Ninth Avenue, or wherever there's a vacant,
It only can go for this property. This redevelopment plan only runs with lot 32.
okay, so La Quinta gets to do that, but nobody else does, if they want.
There's another redevelopment plan for the rest of Ninth Avenue.
I understand that, but what if it's that plan they want to do?
That's part
I'm
of
just
the-
saying, we got vacant properties
That's
there.
part of the other redevelopment plan. This is separate.
So I'm going to telegraph what the other part of this is.
Go ahead.
So, because before we get into the motion, the second plan that we're going to speak to is following the underlying zoning that is already on Ninth Avenue. If a specific developer approaches redevelopment entity, which is mayor and council, and asks for a specific use that's not currently contemplated by our existing ordinance, a redevelopment plan can be changed just like zoning can be changed. And because it is under the redevelopment process, as outlined by the state statute, it's not considered spot zoning. So if another property comes in and wants to do a similar apartment complex, we can look at that and we can amend the plan by the same process, ordinance, referral for consistency and ordinance. Okay. So this is I'm going to call it a document that can be readily adjusted to reflect opportunities. So that answers your question?
No, I mean, it's fine, because I understand what we're doing here, because, I mean, that building's vacant, been sitting that way for a while now. Hey, if we can utilize it to something that's gonna enhance the area and all, I'm all for it. But in the other turn, if somebody, people are followers a lot, they see something that works, maybe something else there that would work similar,
This redevelopment plan very specifically says the conversion of 100 room or more, I think it says hotel, into apartments. So there'd have to be another one that's 100 rooms or more.
I got you,
To be
existing
able to do
already,
it.
existing.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, and this is the only one.
All right.
Yeah, so.
Okay, Mr. Rowan, how would you like this to read?
Is this just for lot 32 and block 135, or you want to?
Just, yeah, separate
Okay,
resolution.
so what you would do, Madam Chairman, is just ask for a motion to approve a resolution which endorses and recommends the redevelopment plan dated March 23rd, 2023 regarding block 135, lot 32.
And as being consistent with the master plan.
And as being consistent with the master plan. Steve's already prepared resolutions that we're not going to adopt tonight. We'll adopt them at the next meeting, which the clerk we have.
Okay, we've heard Mr. Rowan's declaration. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Lowenstein, I apologize, and seconded by Mr. Ockley. Could we have roll call, please?
Chairperson Deanna,
Yes.
Mr. Ockley,
Yes.
Ms. Boucher,
Yes.
Mr. Buckman.
Yes.
Mr. Vanella,
Yes.
Ms. Garner.
Yes.
Mr. Rosal.
Yes.
Thank you. Steve.
Yes. Very good, thank you.
I think it's Earstein, Lowenstein.
And also, I just want to point out at the tail end of this part of the hearing, our zoning map will be changed to reflect the 9th Avenue redevelopment plan area, so everybody can follow along, just like we have on the Blackbirds plan.
Do we have any type of a mapping for when we're going to look at the master plan again?
Not until 2027, unless the board decides they want to open up any portion. You're obligated every 10 years under the state statute to re-examine your master plan. However, if there's any one specific item or many items, you can do a re-examination in part or in total. It's always up to the board's discretion.
Thank you.
Second item is for the remaining lots, which are on the 9th Avenue redevelopment area, which are block 126, lots 1, 1.01, block 135, lots 43.03, 43.05, and 43.06. Again, we're here for consistency with the master plan and the recommendation as to our acceptance of the plan back to mayor and council for the same reasons. These are for the vacant properties that are remaining in the 9th Avenue industrial corridor. The zoning here is proposed, and the development standards here is exactly what is in your ordinance right now. But this provides an opportunity under redevelopment for certain incentives that could be offered by your redevelopment entity, which is the mayor and council, which is payment of taxes or phasing in of value-added taxes, a lot of tools in the redevelopment toolbox. This is also consistent with the master plan for the same reason, to enhance and expand the borough's economic base by promoting the growth of business, industry, and employment opportunities, as well as encouraging appropriate redevelopment throughout the borough. So we'd ask for the same finding.
And are all of these lots and blocks on this particular entity, are they all vacant, not developed, unimproved? Are they all unimproved, Chloe?
I'm going to go Candace and Chloe on that.
I believe so. Yes.
There's no improvements on any of them?
There's no improvements. I think one of them, I apologize, I don't have the study, the redevelopment study that we did a couple years ago, which identified the uses. I think some might be like parking, like asphalt, you know, they're not necessarily all.
But there's no building improvements, nothing of that nature, no business improvements?
Yes, to the best of my memory, they're
Thanks,
not.
Candace.
Are we talking down near the corner?
Yeah. Now, here's the thing I just want to point out. A redevelopment plan, especially as written and as presented here, is an ordinance overlay. So unless a redeveloper is named for a parcel, so for instance, let's just go back to Lakita. Unless a redeveloper is named for the Lakita and a redevelopment agreement is entered into between the redevelopment entity, which is your mayor and council, and a redeveloper, that zoning doesn't come into effect. Underlying zoning stays. So on these properties, a property owner maintains all the rights that they currently have under their existing zoning, and they do not have to go into a redevelopment process. They may choose to, because there is potential benefit for both parties, a municipality and a redeveloper, under the toolbox that the local housing and redevelopment law provides, but it's not required. So we may see some properties come in that may wish to be named a redeveloper and go through the redevelopment designation before they appear before this board. And we may see properties say, nah, I don't really want to, I'm just doing a simple building addition, or I'm doing a little expansion to my back parking lot. I don't want to go through the process of coordinating that effort.
And to be clear, each parcel stands on its own.
When it comes to being named as a redeveloper, yes.
So every person's parcel, they retain all their rights. It stands on its own. They're not obligated to forward into a redevelopment. We're not going to have any type of
no condemnation.
no condemnation and nothing like that, so.
There's no obligation, so underlying zoning, everybody's individual property
Eminent, no eminent domain,
are
nothing like that.
maintained. Yeah, there's no condemnation, that was already decided
Correct.
well before this evening, that was decided at the
Well,
determination.
there's some folks that were on the board that I'm just trying to make
Okay,
clarification. Because there's some folks here that weren't here when we did that.
But you're not deciding this evening whether these areas are in need of redevelopment. I will tell you, and it's a good point, thank you, Madam Chair, that all of the redevelopment areas within the borough of Runnemede are non-condemnation, meaning there is no taking. So all the properties along the Black Horse Pike redevelopment area, no one's taking them. Their underlying zoning stays in place, so we're not affecting anybody's property rights. And that was a very concerted decision made by your mayor and council when it referred to this planning board years ago. And the same thing here on the 9th Avenue, that all property rights are consistently uninterrupted, but there's opportunities if someone on this 9th Avenue or on Collector's Pike want to be named as a redeveloper, there might be opportunities for them for incentivizing redevelopment.
The rumors started long ago when we did this, that eminent domain was coming.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the reason.
That's why I'm putting it on the record
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
In case anybody watches TV.
And let's say someone wants to put in a 40,000 square foot warehouse down at the end of 9th Avenue on the corner. That's not redevelopment, they just can build.
It could be both. It could be done both ways.
Okay.
So they can come in and they can go under the underlying zoning and a regular, straightforward planning board application.
All right.
Or they can come in under the redevelopment zoning, which just happens to be the same consistency as the underlying zoning, but they can do it as a named redeveloper.
Okay.
All right? There's also, and I'm not going to go into the legal aspects, but being named a redeveloper doesn't always have to be at the time of a planning board application. So right now, all we're doing is, on this part is, this is a redevelopment plan that provides for submission items very specifically that has to be given to the redevelopment entity and the procedures to be named a redeveloper. And then the performance standards are currently exactly what's already in our ordinance in terms of zoning and design requirements, landscaping, stormwater, buffering, all those other things. But this just provides an opportunity, hopefully, to get some of these vacant properties redeveloped.
Hold on. What's the advantage to a business if they want to be considered?
So there's advantages to a municipality and there's an advantage to a potential redeveloper. I'm going to generally summarize it as this. There is the ability for a redeveloper to get an abatement on value-added tax assessments. So say a property is at $10,000 assessment right now, where they're making, meaning that it's $10,000 worth of improvement to value, and they're doubling the value of it. They're making a $20,000 property. I'm using very low numbers on purpose. But that phase in of that additional $10,000 of assessment can be done over a number of years. So they don't have to, at year one, pay the full value of the added tax. No abatement lowers the tax that you currently enjoy as a municipality. It only phases in the increased value over a certain number of years. The other thing that's important to both a municipality and a potential redeveloper is, under the redevelopment statute, is a payment in lieu of taxes. Doesn't mean it's required, but it's an opportunity, and that's done by your redevelopment entity, which is your mayor and council. And a payment in lieu of taxes says that up to 95% of the taxes collected on a property that's designated as a redevelopment area can go to pretty much wherever the town says it goes to. 5% by statute has to go to the county. This provides opportunities for possibly more taxes going into the municipal base than currently exists under ad valorem, meaning that, I'm just going to use round numbers, and Mr. Lovenstein knows exactly, but I'm going to say approximately 32% is probably the municipal base, somewhere in that area. somewhere in that area, you can, and the county is probably around 36%, county can go down to 5%, and that additional percentage could be, I'm not saying it's going to be, could be brought into the municipal side of the tax base. So that's the benefit for a municipality. Also, not necessarily does all the value-added taxes be assessed immediately at year one. You can phase in the increase in taxes on a property.
Is that usually like a 10-year?
It could be up to 30 years, I believe. 30 years?
30 years.
I'm looking over to my team over there.
Yeah.
It could be up to 30 years. Most people do around 20. On larger projects, and on smaller projects, probably around 10. But these are things that could be negotiated for the benefit of both the municipality and also to incentivize and be a benefit to someone who's going to make an investment within the borough on their private property.
So this is like case by case?
Case by case basis, there are no set standards, and this plan only says that it follows the local redevelopment and housing law.
It actually, so it allows for the bulk standards to be somewhat flexible to work with the borough
Okay.
on them. And I do want to add though, the process for it, there are some required submittal items that are maybe above and beyond what's usually required for just a planning board application. And there's also the redeveloper, if they want redevelopment designation, the applicant has to get their redeveloper status first through Borough Council and get approved. Borough Council will have to look at the entire site plan application, all the documents, and they'll have to be deemed consistent with the redevelopment plan before they come to the planning board for site plan. So it would be vetted by Borough Council as a redevelopment entity prior to coming to planning board, if that's what they wanted to do. So like the one newer development that just is coming in.
We would hope that any potential development on these properties, that they'd be inclined to go in front of mayor and council as redevelopment entity and be named as redeveloper, and that would provide a lot of opportunity. So let's hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully I answered the question.
You did, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for myself or Janice or Chloe?
Great job, Todd. Mr. Rowan, adding with Mr. Reed.
Yep, we'll just need a motion to endorse and recommend the redevelopment plan set forth dated March 23rd regarding blocks 126, lots 1, 1.01, and block 135, lots 4303, 4305, and 4306. And our recommendation that it be adopted and that it's consistent with our master plan.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Buckheim, second by Mr. Ockley. Will we have roll call, please?
Chairperson Leanne?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Ms. Boshin?
Yes.
Mr. Buckheim?
Yes.
Mr. Vanella?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Rozak?
Yes.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Very good, yes, yes.
All right, thank you, Chloe, thank you, Candace, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, at this point in time, we're going to open up the meeting to the public for a good welfare portion. If anyone in the public wishing to speak on any matter whatsoever, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and be heard.
Seeing no one in the public wish to speak at this time, I make a motion to close the public portion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Ockley, seconded by Ms. Boucher. All in favor?
Aye.
At this point, we'll entertain a motion.
I have a couple questions for Steve. real quick.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Steve, forgive me for my lapse in memory, but on the Toyota property in Runnemede, who checks their drainage? I know we had talked about.
We do.
You do? Okay.
Yes. Actually, we just did a site review of the improvements that were required. I was there myself, I was there approximately 2 Fridays ago, and they met all the conditions that were required.
So like, they show you like all of their paperwork, that the system's being cleaned and all that?
I'm
Or is
sorry,
or is that our code official?
Maintenance of existing sites that are already approved by this board, first of all and foremost, the obligation is on the owner of the property to maintain the property in accordance with their approvals, that they came in and said, we're going to do this, and we agree with this. That's number one. If there is a specific issue, it is, and it's brought to the attention of our code enforcement, then code enforcement can make an inspection of the site and cite the owner for any non-compliance with their conditions of approval. So that's under the property maintenance ordinance of our thing. In terms of when a project is being developed, if it's a major site, if it is a site plan, or if it is a site plan application or a major subdivision application, our office will inspect to make sure the improvements are built the site improvements are built per the approvals.
So I thought they had to maintain a record of the drainage, with the silt, all that kind of stuff.
It only depends on if they have certain conditions under the stormwater, the state stormwater regulations. So anything that is a major development, anything over a quarter acre of new impervious or over an acre of disturbance, which we do not have many of. Probably the only one in recent memory is the D.R. Horton major subdivision. Under that, they will have a stormwater operation and maintenance manual that'll have to be recorded at the County Clerk's office and will run with the property. And those type require quarterly inspections, quarterly maintenance, quarterly
I could have
things.
sworn they had them on that problem.
Runnymede, the original Runnymede Toyota or the
No, when we did the
used car
flag
lot?
lot and.
No, it was not, because that was already a pre-existing site, and their improvements did not rise to the level of a major development. So they're not obligated to
Yeah, the
do.
reason I asked you, we're coming up to the summer, and we know what happened there a few years ago. And I don't want to see that happen again. I want to make sure they are maintaining their system.
Anything out there, we made them straighten out the fence and a few things in the back there to the best of our ability under those existing approvals. Ongoing, if there's any issue, it's where the borough is not obligated to do inspections of a piece of property under our code enforcement ordinance. If there's any concerns by any resident or any member of the board or any member of the town, you can bring that up to code enforcement and then they can check it.
And then my second question, is there any, do you know if anything's going on with the property of Esham Road you spoke about before? The impervious coverage, the ribbon driveway, do you know if anything's happening?
No, I've not heard anything since the last meeting.
Who's going to follow up on that, Steve?
Because
We
that
had a
was.
meeting, what, 2 months ago?
Yeah, so that was put in the hand of our zoning officer because the inspection of bulk variance applications, people putting in a small addition or driveway or garage and everything else, the town's policy is not to require engineering inspection by escrow or issue or posting of performance guarantees. These are mom and pops. So the obligation and the responsibility is on the zoning official prior to CO to make sure that they install what was approved by the board.
Does someone from your office do us a courtesy and reach out to the zoning office and just see what progress has been made upon that? Because that was
And
at least 2 months ago that we,
anybody know the exact address, I could look it up. But it's the ribbon driveway on East,
I do
right?
not know off the top of my head.
804, I'm not sure.
All right, ribbon driveway, I will do that.
I appreciate that, Steve. Yeah, just give us an update so
Uh-huh.
we know that something's being done. We have a meeting, we put things in place. Yes.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
All right, that's the same one, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve, appreciate it.
All right, we'll follow up.
Let me know. Thank you. Anything else before we adjourn? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Hockley, Mr. Waldenstein, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. All right, we're adjourned at 8:54.